Hey guys, how y'all doing today? My name is Veles-Sage, and today we will be talking about a relatively new character who made a huge impact on Thor. I am of course talking about Gorr, the God Butcher, a villain who will be making his appearance in the MCU. But before we go over that in more details, let's talk about his comic counterpart. Gorr is a character similar to the biblical figure Job. The story goes Job is a good man blessed with wealth, family, and land, but Satan tells God that Job only praises God because he has a good life. So God tells the devil he can take everything from Job save his life. So the devil kills Job's wife and kids, destroys his home, his cattle, and Job loses all his wealth and even his health declines. But per God's order, the devil doesn't kill him. Despite all this suffering, Job never blames the Lord and accepts that he has deserved all this for some reason. And as a reward for his devotion, he was restored to a better health than he originally had, and blessed to have 7 sons and 3 daughters. Now, while one could see some similarities between Gorr and Job, there are some major differences between the two. Gorr was born on a hostile world with a harsh environment and many dangerous animals. He was part of a tribe who believed that gods existed, and despite their hard lives, they continued to pray to them. When Gorr lost his family and he expressed his disbelief that the gods existed, his people cast him out for his heresy and Gorr was left to wander alone. One day, he spotted 2 gods plummet from the sky. One was Null, the primordial god of the void and lord of the symbiotes. The other had been a deity who had been fighting him and managed to land a devastating blow to Null, though not killing him, and as of now, he is currently wrecking Earth in the King in Black event. Gorr approached the two, becoming furious when the golden armored god asked for help. He asked the god where he had been for his family when they prayed for his help. Null's weapon, the all-black necrosword, fused with Gorr, and Gorr stabbed the golden god to death. Realizing the gods were real and filled with rage, he left his world and would start a journey to kill all the gods. Many years later, Gorr would come to Earth, and after killing several native gods, he would meet a young Thor, and the two would fight, in which Gorr lost his arm. Thor believed him dead, but Gorr survived and would continue murdering many gods and honing his powers as he did. Thor would later become aware of Gorr's activities when he arrived on the planet Indigar, where all the deities had been murdered. Gorr's plan to kill all the gods would reach new genocidal heights, as he would use time travel to travel into the future, where he would massacre many gods, and those he didn't kill he kept enslaved. Among them were Thor's granddaughters, Alti, Elisith, and Frigg, using them and the other slaves to build a god bomb that when activated would travel through all time and space, infecting all the gods with the necrosword and killing them from the infection, and then rid all of existence of any form of the divine. Gorr would bring Thor from the present and young Thor from the past, when they first met, to the future so he could gloat, and using the necrosword, he created duplicates of his family. The duplicate of his son was actually formed from Gorr's own self-loathing, and helped the Thors defeat his father, declaring Gorr as a god of hypocrisy, as he had just been as bad as the gods he hated, selfish, and never caring selfish, never caring, or even trying to help others in pursuit of his own selfish goals. With Thor absorbing the power of the God Bomb and the Necrosword, his younger incarnation was able to defeat Gorr. This time, he aimed for the head. King Thor, Thor's future self, purged the Necrosword from his younger self's body, and to keep it out of the hands of his youngest and arrogant incarnation, cast it into a black hole. Gorr was not dead, however. The Necrosword had stored his consciousness before his death. Eventually the sword came into the possession of Loki, who fought with Thor. Gorr would be brought back, and he took the sword from Loki, and Thor's granddaughters arrived with the new lords of Indigar, made up of the former slaves of Gorr, and saved Loki and Thor. Alti decapitated Gorr, but his consciousness merged with the All Black, and it began to consume the whole universe. He manifested a black hole to consume Thor, but was distracted by Loki, giving Thor time to unleash the full power of the god Tempest from Mjolnir, and destroyed the All Black once and for all. Gore once more survived, but this time he lost his power and was once again mortal. Left amnesiac and insane, the Sky Lords took him to their world where he could live out the rest of his mortal life in peace. Chances are we will see him again sooner or later, but now let's move on to the next part of this video, Gore's big screen debut. In 2019, at the July San Diego Comic-Con, it was officially confirmed that a fourth Thor film, Thor: Love and Thunder, with Natalie Portman returning as Jane Foster, was being made. The movie adapts elements of Jason Aaron's Mighty Thor, which sees Jane inherit Mjolnir and become the new Thor. In early January of 2020, Christian Bale joined the cast and was later learned he would play the villain. It wasn't until much later we learned he would be playing Gore. I guess he lived long enough to see himself become a villain. Get it? While Gore's inclusion is great, it also raises some interesting questions. Namely, how much of his comic iteration will be brought over into the film? While the Asgardians in the MCU are more highly evolved aliens who also know magic, we haven't seen any other godly characters like Hercules or any other kind of pantheon. So why would Gore be coming after the Asgardians? I have a theory. See, in Thor Ragnarok, Hela reveals the truth of Asgard's rise to power, that Odin and her had led a crusade to conquer, but Odin stopped at 9 realms and sealed Hela away when she wanted to keep going. So what if Gore is a survivor from that conquest? It would help add a certain level of depth to his character, and that he is trying to avenge his people and family who were killed. With Asgard gone, Thor off-world, with the Guardians, and the Asgardians now practically an endangered species, it would be a good time for their enemies to find them and finish the job. Now, I also need to quickly go off topic to explain how Gore played a role in Jane becoming Thor in the comics. See, Gore's belief that the gods were unworthy of their worship always stuck in Thor's mind. And during the original Sin storyline, when Nick Fury whispered into his ear that Gore was right, it caused Thor to lose his sense of worthiness, and he couldn't pick up Mjolnir no more, which is how Jane came to have it until Thor himself regained his sense of worth. Now, in the MCU, the last time we saw poor Mjolnir, it was getting crushed like cookies by Hela. Its broken pieces were left at the cliff where Thor and Loki last spoke to Odin. Now, anyone who knows their Thor lore, comic Thor that is, know that Mjolnir has been destroyed several times, but it is always repaired. And obviously it is going to return in this movie, so Jane can get her power up. But how? And why? That is where Gore comes in. What if Thor is out in space with the Guardians, unaware that Gore is coming for his people? Desperate for help, the Asgardians somehow repair Mjolnir, and Jane is literally the only one able to pick it up and becomes the mighty Thor. Or maybe Jane herself somehow fixes it. After all, she did house the Reality Stone when it was in the Aether form, and we know that the stones typically kill mere humans or give them superhuman abilities. So maybe it affected Jane in a way that allows her to fix Mjolnir. Now, one thing I am curious about is if Odin's spell still works, and only someone worthy can pick it up. Some people have theorized that when he died, all his spells broke, which is how Hela was able to easily grab it with no struggle, while Mjolnir was obviously trying to break free of her grasp. It could be it was just trying to escape from her grip, and that's why we saw it moving around like how it was. If the enchantment is still in place, that means it could still be at the cliff. I think it would be really cool to see Jane go to the cliff and become Thor there, because that's where the downfall of Thor began, with Odin dying there and Hela being freed and destroying Mjolnir. What better place for a new Thor to rise? Another possibility is Doctor Strange. In the comics, when Thor's grandfather Bor damaged Mjolnir, he went to Strange to repair it, and he did. It would be a nice cameo. Also, being a doctor himself, it would be interesting to see him bond with Jane, since they confirmed she will have her cancer like in the comics. If she does end up keeping her powers by the end of the movie, I think it would be appropriate for Strange to be the one to warn her that transforming back and forth between her human and goddess form would be slowly killing her like it was in the comics. Because in the comics, every time she transformed, the hammer would purge her of her leukemia treatments, because technically that was a poison, but she needed those treatments to deal with the cancer, and so like every time she transformed, she'd be purged and the cancer would continue to grow, and so thereby it was slowly killing her. Either way, I think the threat of Gorr will be what makes Jane become the mighty Thor. I'm sure Thor has a way to keep in contact with Earth, so if he does need to get back, he can just use Stormbreaker to summon the Bifrost. It's also going to be great to see how Thor handles Gorr, since the last time we saw him, he was still recovering from his PTSD. I wouldn't be surprised if he's still suffering from it, and I would like to see him continue his journey of recovery. And this is where I'm going to end the video. What do you guys think about Gorr being added to the MCU? Have any of you ever heard of him? Are you excited to see Jane become the mighty Thor? And how do you think Mjolnir will be restored? Let me know what you think about in the comments down below. In the next video, I will be talking about a witch you all have heard in many different stories and one of my favorite characters from the comic series Fables. If you like this video and would like to see more videos in the future, please hit the subscribe and click the notification bell to get alerts when I upload new content. Until next time, this is Veles-Sage. Peace and blessings to you all.